Evening, guys. Hello. Who's jumping on? Who's going to be first to the party tonight? Hey, Paige. Hey, Alex. This is Paige, Alex, and one other. Harish, Liv. You are on time today, Paige. You were at the bitter end last night, but I'm sure you caught it. I'm sure you caught it on the catch up. Paul Devine, how you doing, buddy? Harish, Mark, Burke. Got a couple of names I don't recognise tonight. What has everyone been doing? I'm very tired. I think what has been inside and hot weather. I've been for a long walk today, like super long, bit of walking, bit of running, and it put me to sleep. I nodded off about 6 o'clock. I've just come around. Evening, Emma. Thanks for joining us. Harry says, how's my quarantine going? Productive, buddy. Productive. Been doing lots and lots of work. Talking to you guys a lot. I think yesterday I did 4 hours live yesterday. 3 hours, 2 hours on Facebook, 2 hours on Instagram. So certainly keeping busy. Hey, Camilla Collins, don't recognise your name. Well, listen, we'll start having a natter, and I've had a couple of messages from some people today saying that they had questions and things they wanted to talk about. So as always, make my life easier for me and put some questions in the comment box. Save me having to do too much thinking. But in the meantime, I did have a topic that we were going to talk about tonight. Just have a little recap on today's question, though. What does Paige say? Loving the top. Paige, you can't imagine how old this top is. I must have had this top. I've definitely had it since before Harley was born. I must have had it for about 15 years. Went for a walk today and got blisters. Been planning some more and giving myself some more ideas. Good to hear. David Bradley Ward, good evening, buddy. Good evening. You and I are going to have to do one of these lives together over the next few days. You can talk to everyone about the state of the peer-to-peer market and fundraising. Evening, Peter. So today's question was talking about what you can do, not me telling you, me asking you, what you can do to be able to compete with, well, it was framed as what can you do to compete with Amazon. My post was a little clip from a conversation Zara Holland and I were having the other week. Zara, for anyone who doesn't know her, is a friend of mine. She's an ex-Love Islander, but a current retailer. She's had a retail store for a long time, a couple of stores in small towns in East Yorkshire, and an online business. And we were talking about what you need to do to compete, with the likes of Amazon and the other large scale online discount retailers. And my belief is that whilst ever you've got a point of difference, whilst ever you've got that personalised service, there's always things that you can offer that that the big boys can't offer. And listen, I'm not going to be naive enough to say that that it is possible to compete with them on a pound for pound basis. But there are certainly things you can do to increase your margins, increase your turnover, and prolong your existence in that business. And I asked you guys some of the things that you were going to do to be able to make your business, bulletproof, if you like. How can you put a protective moat around it, as Warren Buffett would use as his analogy? What is your USP, your point of difference that will help you survive and thrive? A couple of comments from people. Tasha Mitchell said to make her business unique, she offers support group chats as well as messaging me or even FaceTime whenever my clients need support. And that is something quite common now with the likes of Facebook groups and a common method of aftercare, and very, very valuable. Creating that sense of community with your clients is very important. You know, building that connection between you and them. You know, potentially expanding that, and like I say, creating a community for all of your clients to feel part of. And you know, one of the things we always talk about is how easy it is to do. How easy it is to do a lot of this stuff with existing platforms and existing technology that's already out there. And you know, you don't need fancy websites, you don't need fancy kit. You know, if you make that decision that you want to create, build and maintain relationships with clients, you know, create groups for sense of community with your clients, then you can, like I say, do it with the existing technologies like Facebook groups, like FaceTime, as Tasha refers to, Zoom, and you know, some of the other things that I talk about a lot. What else? Camilla says she's been living all the way. Work, social, all on the screen from one place. It's a dream. I've gained so much time. Self-isolation bliss. Fantastic. Yeah, you know, I was actually thinking about lives today. I think it was Peter Wilson who had come up with when I was talking this to you guys in the night, because I know last night I was talking about how you just really have to find a way to simplify and get into your comfort zone, to start creating some content and build up from there. And I was saying, look, if you can't do video, do audio. If you can't do audio on your own, do it with somebody else. If you can't, do it pre-recorded, do it as an interview. You just do something to be able to make it happen. And somebody else, I can't remember if it was Peter, said, "Oh, I'm going to start doing lives." And I think I mentioned, well, don't do lives just yet. Build your confidence up and get a little bit better. Doing some pre-recorded stuff. But after I'd said that, and that, to be honest, that would have been my strategy. But it reminded me of an article or a video or something I watched a while ago, where an influencer was talking about how to giving techniques to force people to get going. And actually they did say the exact opposite to me, which was if you're struggling to start, just start doing lives. Because I think and what their logic is a big part of people not starting is that they haven't got everything perfect. It's like when you do a photo, you haven't got the lighting right, you haven't got the filter right, you haven't got the after touch up right, etc. And with a video, it's even harder. It's so easy to start making excuses that this isn't right and that isn't right, and before you know it, you re-record and you re-record and you re-record. And obviously, what I and many others will say is that first of all, it's you that thinks it's wrong, not that it really is wrong. And secondly, 80%, 90% quality, but getting it out there is much more important than 100% quality. Having perfection and not getting it out there. And I guess one of the logics to going live is you are just thrown in at the deep end. You've got no chance to make excuses. You've got no ability to go, oh, I don't like that take. I'll cancel it and re-record it and cancel it and re-record it. So it didn't, like I say, after I came off the live last night, it did make me think about that and just got me thinking maybe for some people, if you find yourself constantly deleting your content, maybe just get out there and do it as a live, and there's nothing, there's no stopping you then, there's nothing you can do about it. What else has anybody said today? Paige has said, can't get my computer going. You're offering techniques but in a different way. Everybody works different. This is what I like, Paige, because it leads me on to what I wanted to talk about. You said you've added some aftercare products to my range for free, so I'm using incentives to boost my clientele. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and that's a nice lead on, is how can you add to your product range? How can you add to your offers and and create like an offer stack? Are you having lots of products, more than one products in different price points for your business? And I know this is something I've been guilty of myself in the past, where we automatically think, my product is, page. My product is doing hair extensions, and then you kind of limit yourself to that, and therefore anyone who could come to you for anything other than hair extensions, or anything at a price lower than what you're selling for, or at a price higher, is effectively you're unable to serve them, and you are closing yourself to a few things. You're closing yourself to increasing your turnover by being available to a larger market. You are closing yourself to the ability to bring new customers in who can't necessarily afford your existing product at the moment. Because again, I don't know what your hair extensions cost. I'm just using it as an example, but just let's say they were £300 for some hair extensions. If you're a customer that doesn't need hair extensions or can't afford hair extensions, then effectively you never get the chance to bring them into your circle and start letting them see your social media, letting them see your brand, build your personality, build from your personality, etc. So so that door is closed to them. And if you don't have higher value products, and higher value products are normally higher margin products. There's certainly a higher cash margin product, even if they're not a higher percentage margin product. You are limiting your ability to earn. And this conversation, this thought process came around because for two reasons. One, it's something I've been working on over the past couple of weeks of lockdown for my businesses. And a friend of mine who has popped up on these lives a couple of times, a guy called Sav, a magician who you'll have heard me give a shout out to a few times. He came to me the other day to ask some questions about his business, and it got me on to talking to him about his offer stack. So for example, when I first started in the finance business, my original product, my initial product was providing stock finance for second-hand car dealers. So effectively, my only product was a loan, a stocking loan to a second-hand car dealer who wanted to buy and sell cars. That was a nice business in and of itself, but it was obviously very limiting to the growth of our business. And we could only offer a certain type of business at a certain price. So we would get, we'd receive lots of leads, lots of inbound telephone calls of people looking for finance, but we were unable to serve them, and we were therefore unable to get them in our sales funnel, get them into our ecosystem, to market to them, to potentially trade with them in the future. So then, we naturally evolved into cash flow loans for smaller businesses, bridging loans for larger businesses. And listen, and don't get me wrong, this was not me, let's say, being clever at the time. This was almost a natural process of growth. But now I understand the concept here. I appreciate very much it's something that can be sat down and thought about and brainstormed, and ideally done a lot earlier in the business, then we don't miss the opportunities to collect leads, customer leads, as time goes on. So for example, we used to get a lot of inbound leads where it was people wanting startup finance. So initially we didn't do startup finance, then we added startup finance to our range of products. But then invariably, the quality of the leads, they were never good enough to qualify for the kind of finance that we were offering. They were too small a business, they wanted too small a loan that wasn't economically viable for us, or the quality of the security wasn't right. So at that point, there was nothing we could do with this customer. We couldn't sell them anything, therefore we couldn't make any money. It had cost us money to acquire that lead. However you want to skin it, we'd paid for pay-per-click on Google, or I'd put time into marketing like this, or an affiliate had given us a lead. So however you skin it, that lead had cost us money, and it was effectively dead. And that's then when I started to create content like this. So if someone was a startup business, just because we couldn't help them at that time didn't mean we wanted to not be able to build a relationship with them. So then, so I wrote a book. I wrote a book about how to raise finance for your business. A book that I could potentially sell, or if not sell, I could certainly give away to these people. I started to create a lot of my YouTube videos and a lot of my content. Giving out advice. Teaching people how to use creative thinking to find other methods to finance their business. because just because I couldn't help them there and then, I may be able to help them at some point in the future, and therefore, if I can help them along their journey, but obviously I need to help them along that journey in an economically viable way for me, i.e., I can't be investing my time one-on-one to help them with this stuff, because obviously I've only got so many hours in the day, and that's not a scalable proposition. But if I've written a book, if I've created videos, if I've got a massive content out there that these people can watch and listen to, and hopefully then make their businesses better, one day they would have a business big enough to then be able to come back to me and ask for finance, and at that point I could make money. Another great example of that is my friend Tim Kitchen, who you've seen on some of my posts lately, who did a webinar the other day about how to set your business up to be working remotely. And his average customer, I think his average customer spends between £2,000 and £10,000 a month with him on pay-per-click and SEO and digital marketing. And I think from memory, like their minimum entry-level customer is something like £1,500. Don't quote me on that. I'm just using this for example's sake. But he would get a lot of leads in who are too small a business. Steve the plumber, who currently works on his own and can't therefore possibly afford Tim's service at £1,500. So what has he done? He's created cheaper entry-level products, basically like the do-it-yourself product of, an online university for £50 a month, where Steve the plumber can go into that university and learn how to do a lot of the things himself, to do his own SEO, to do his own pay-per-click, to make his own website better, and therefore effectively hopefully grow to a size one day that would be big enough to be a viable customer for Tim to be able to sell to. And as I said, I'm not going to keep giving stories and examples. I'm sure you get the picture of what I'm talking about, and all of you can apply this to your business. I will give you one more example, which was when I was talking to Sav the magician. His product effectively is, he has one single product, which was him performing at somebody as an entertainer at a magic show for somebody. And that, sorry, people are jumping in on here. I didn't realise. But he says, I'm so grateful as my clients have been checking in with me, and I've been giving them videos to help maintain. Yeah, fantastic methods of keeping that communication. Sorry, my way home says, good evening. Sorry, guys, I didn't realise you were in this box. Otherwise, I would have been answering you more. Camilla says, lives are great. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Just jump on and be yourself 100%, which is hard to do these days. And the fact that it's uncomfortable means we need to do it more. Yeah, and it will get easier every day. Camilla says, can I tell you about my tattoos? Dan Healy is there. How you doing? Dan Healy is going to be on a live with me tomorrow, as long as he doesn't get too drunk. Paige says, did I publish a book? It's effectively published as an ebook, but if you send me your email address, I will send you a copy of it. Tasha says, what is the best way to start a business on limited capital? We'll talk about that in a moment. Yeah, bit tall. What else is anyone saying? Chantel's late but listening and taking notes. Richard Wolf, good evening. Good evening to you too. Tully Carson says, any advice on what industries and companies to buy stocks in? If you, I don't recognise your name, and I think you're new to these. One thing I don't do personally is buy stocks and shares because I don't understand them. I certainly don't take tips off other people who are offering those tips. So my best advice to you is be really happy that I'm not giving you any advice, and don't listen to anybody else's advice as well, especially somebody who wants to ask you for money. Richard is saying, don't buy them to make money, they're a gamble. They certainly are. Peter says, Tesco's is a great example of this with their range, a basic range, mid-range, high range. Exactly, yep. Right, sorry, we're at the bottom now, so if I talk, at least it'll go up. Yeah, so I was talking to you about Sav the magician. He has one single product, which is him being an entertainer at a magic show. And let's just call it £1,000 for the sake of this conversation. Let's say he charges £1,000 to provide a 2 hour magic show. So obviously the problem with him then is he's got so much to offer in the magical sense, but unless you are somebody having a wedding, somebody having a birthday party, someone putting on a corporate event, and somebody who has got £1,000 to spend, he's of no use to you. So what we started to talk about is what other products he can create both below the £1,000 bracket and above the £1,000 bracket to be able to offer his services to a wider audience and then ultimately make himself more valuable. Now, one thing we immediately started to talk about was teaching magic, giving education. And obviously online courses, anything like that now is fantastically topical, but this concept existed prior and will continue to exist long into the future. So we talked about the possibility of maybe being able to create an online course that he could sell to people who wanted to have magic lessons, because he sells his time giving a one-on-one magic lesson, or he could do it over Skype. But again, to maintain the fact that he's at £500 an hour, let's say, if you haven't got that £500 to spend, then he's of no use to you. But if he pre-records some of his teachings, he could put it on an online portal, and that could be whatever it could be, £10 a month, £50 a month, £100 a month, whatever he can get away with. But then here, and you've done two things then. One is you've got a second product, so you can open yourself to a whole new market of people, and that can potentially make him money in itself. He gets the subscriptions, and that's a profitable avenue in itself. Secondly, what it does is effectively bring him a whole load of new customers, who some of those ultimately may have the money at either now or in the future to be able to spend more with him, and then he can move them up the ladder. But what's also starts to get really interesting is when he offers himself out and he's in a price war with other people, he can start to layer on some of these other services almost as freebies and make his product sound so much more valuable. So one of the things we were talking about the other day was he is offering a 20-person magic lesson or something online to a corporate business. And somebody else is offering to do that as well, and he was saying how much should he charge? And obviously the problem is if someone charges 900, then he has to charge 850. They charge 800, and it's a race to the bottom. But if he has these other products in his product mix, then, for example, the online magic lessons, once he's created it, it's effectively free. So what he could, let's just say for example, he charges £99 for lifetime access to that. What he could then do is when he's offering his £1,000 2-hour online magic lesson to these 20 people, he could say that everybody who comes to the lesson gets free access for life to his course, which is £99, and there's 20, and therefore he's effectively given away £2,000 worth of value. Really, it's cost him nothing because he's already created it, but then that all of a sudden makes him feel so much cheaper or so much better value than anybody he's competing against. So I'm sure you get the idea. Tulleen Carson says, I understand your concept, but it would be hard to position your business. I'm not too sure what you mean by that. If you expand on that for me, I will try and answer for you. But if you're talking about the concept I've just been talking about there for greater product range and more expensive products and cheaper products, I fail to believe there is any business in any sector that cannot do that. It might not come to your head immediately, and it might not come to my head immediately. But none of these. I mean, we're talking about setting your business up for life here. So none of these things are necessarily going to come to you in 5 minutes. But sit down with a blank sheet of paper, or sit down with your mates or your work colleagues and a bottle of wine, and just start brainstorming. And it almost doesn't matter how crazy some of these ideas are. Don't worry about viability initially. Worry about creating the ideas and the concepts, and then when you've created tens and tens and tens of different ideas that you could do, then start to look at, are they viable? How much would it cost to deliver? And as I've said on the last couple of nights of lives, Don't just think about what you can afford to pay for or what you're prepared to pay for. You know, everybody out there has different desires, different pain points, different different budgets that they're prepared to work to. So don't close your mind to opportunities just because you wouldn't or couldn't afford to pay for something. And I think the other night we were using the example of a masseuse. You know, I'm a major massage fan, and I also like to do things at the time of day that suits me because I keep funny hours or I'm busy or whatever it may be. And you know, if I could find a great masseuse who is effectively on call at some mad time, then you know, within reason, I'd pay anything for that. Certainly more than double, triple, you know, potentially even quadruple their normal hourly rate. And that's just chucking it out there as an example that there is always someone prepared to pay. Well, says anybody saying, My Way Home says, you're just listening in. You are still listening in. You're just a bit busy in the background tonight with uploading online products. Good stuff, multitasking. Paige says it's a good example. Thank you very much, Paige. Got a few new people. Backyard Toys, Emsky 320, R Singe. Not seen some of you guys before. Welcome to the party. Tasha asked a question earlier. What is my advice to start a business on limited capital? I mean, I guess a couple of things. I mean, first of all, is it physically possible and viable to start that business on limited capital? I mean, obviously, one thing I always talk about is that I see business plans with so much unnecessary fat in them that they could be started for a lot less money if you trim these things out. But if it, almost like the exact opposite of that is, you know, certain things cost a minimum amount to do. You know, it will take a certain amount of time to generate sales and generate income and cash flow and profitability. So you obviously need to make sure you've got enough run money to get to that point of profitability. Otherwise, you could fall over before you even get out the blocks. So first of all, make sure your business can be started for the limited amount of capital you've got. And also, look, we've talked about this. I remember talking about this a week or so ago. If the business takes X amount of capital and you've only got this, I've talked to you a lot about finding creative methods of fundraising. You know, don't just think in terms of bank loans. Could you look at personal loans? Don't just think in terms of loans. Could you look at credit cards and overdrafts? Could you get your customers to pay up front, heavily up front? Very heavily up front in return for a massive discount. You know, just ways to get cash into the business. So there's, you know, again, depending on your business and your business model, there's always ways to, you know, to create extra cash flow. But there are also limits to reality. And maybe, just maybe, that business at that particular time, with the amount of capital you can get access to, isn't the right business for you at that time. And don't let that put you off. You know, I'm not trying to be negative about it. I'm the one who's always talking to you about finding creative ways to achieve what you want to achieve. But sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, if you are a newbie in business and you've got no money and very little business experience and you need to start a business, and you want to start a business that needs £10 million to set it up, I'm sorry, all the positive thinking in the world is not going to help with that. You know, you need to put that business on the back burner and start with a smaller business and build that business and make money from that, and then move on to the next step and the next step. Because every time you do more business and make more money, you will also further your contact base, improve your network, and improve your education and problem solving, etc., etc. So think creative, be positive, but also be realistic, Tasha. Chantel is working. Good evening, Chantel, and thank you for working. Nikki Warner is in the house. How you doing, buddy? I was going to call you today actually, and then never got round to it. I've been writing an online course myself actually today, so that's kept me busy. And then I've had a long walk, and then I've fallen asleep. Wang Wan. I don't know what does Wang Wan mean. All right, guys. Well, listen. You never got to see it, but I do have my wine tonight, Saturday night, wine night. May even cook some turkey mince again in a minute. But unless anyone else has got any questions or anything else you want to talk about, I will announce tonight's winner, who is, again, it's a face I've seen crop up quite a few times on posts lately, but never won, I don't think. But it is Hannah Bennett. She had some numbers after her name as well. I think it was 41. Hannah Bennett 41. So well done. Congratulations, Hannah. And whiz me your PayPal and whiz me your PayPal and I will send you some money. £100 is coming its way to you. Oh, what are you up to? It means really Wagwan means what are you up to? I'm either getting old or that's I'm not down with the kids in that terminology anymore. Chantel, send me a message about how that translates to what you're up to. And Paige says every night is wine night for you. It hasn't been every night, although I admit it's probably a lot more nights than I have wanted. Paige, you've won. You've definitely won at least once before. And we've got long time during lockdown to have more chances to win. And also, I genuinely think for a lot of you guys that the work you're doing and the help or the motivation or whatever I'm giving you guys is worth a hell of a lot more than the £100. So don't be worried if you haven't won just yet. But keep coming back. All right. Well, I will have a word with my random competition generator and tell him to randomly work towards you in the not too distant future. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday, everybody, and I'm going to do a few extra lives tomorrow. We'll do the usual one at 9 o'clock where we can talk business and see what you've all been up to. But I have put the word out to a few friends to come and do some entertainment for us during the day. So Dan Healy, who you saw pop up earlier on, Dan is an awesome musician, songwriter, works with Ronan Keating. And I think I've told you before that he's written a song for the NHS, the frontliners. So he's going to come on and play that song to us and tell us a little bit about what he's been up to. So get your dancing shoes ready, or it's the acoustic version. Well, Scotty T is going to be in the house. He's going to pop on for 10 or 15 minutes. We can see what he's been up to, and he can talk in Geordie language for us. And I've messaged a few other people as well who should be jumping on. I think Paul Knops might swing by and say hello. So we'll have an Easter Sunday special. So thanks a lot, as always, for popping by, guys. And I will look forward to seeing you definitely at 9 o'clock tomorrow. But maybe earlier in the day if you jump on with any of my more entertainment-related guests. Peter Wilson, nice to see you as well, matey. I hope those notes are almost turning into a podcast and turning into content. And for everyone who has listened tonight, go back and have a rewatch of this if you need to. But have a big think what I was talking to you about your offers and your products. And like I say, whatever business you've got, whatever it is you're selling, there is definitely ways for you to increase that product mix. Even if your product is you as a consultant charging £100 an hour, charging £500 a day, whatever it is you do, there is a way to create an offer stack, both more expensive and cheaper, and broaden that product base and increase those margins. So that is it for me. Saturday night. What date? Saturday the 11th of March. No, April even. Everything's merging into one for me. I'm sure it's for a lot of you guys as well. So good night, and I will speak to you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.